Over the past year, I've seen kids drop out of college, get funded by Silicon Valley's biggest VCs, and build million-dollar startups. And they did this all at the events that we run called hackathons, where I've personally given away over $1 million to contestants. And in this video, I'm gonna give you the 5 top tips to win a hackathon. And I'm afraid that if you can't spend 5 minutes to get $50,000 worth of free advice, then I've got news for you. You're not gonna make it. Tip number 1 is what I like to call the Lockbox Method. The reason it's called that is because it's named after a team that used this method to win 3 hackathons in a row. Some people are just at hackathons for the free food. I'm here for the free food. That's a common joke that people often make. But you've got to show that you're actually there for the technology and that you want to build this into a real startup. You have to make sure that the judges know who you are and that you're in it to win it. Tip number 2 is called the AA method. I call it the AA method because it's named after 2 hackathon winners who won 5 hackathons in a row and have taken away over $100,000 from these hackathons. So what did they do? They created something visually impressive and something that stood out. Every time that they came to a hackathon, they built something that was tangible, something that you could see. They used mobile apps and showed what they'd actually done physically there so that people could play with it. It just made a massive, massive difference and stood out from everybody else. When you go up on stage, you're going to be pitching up against at least 15 other teams. So you've got to do something that will make you stand out. Tip number 3 is to come up with the idea before the hackathon. A hackathon is only about 36 hours long, maybe 48. So you've got to do yourself a favor and come up with your idea before you actually turn up at the hackathon itself. Every hackathon judge is going to love it if before the hackathon you've actually invested your own time in figuring out what the technology is all about, what it can do, and what problem am I going to solve. In doing so, you're going to finalize your idea within the first hour, as opposed to spending the first 10 hours actually figuring out what on earth you're even going to build in the first place. Tip number 4 is to start coding as soon as possible. Obviously, you already know that, but it ties back to my previous point. If you've already got your idea and you've come to the hackathon prepared, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. Take these guys, Artemi and JJ. They're absolute hackathon pros, and they've just got into YC. Whenever they've come to hackathons, they've just sat down at their desks and known exactly what to do. They've come with the idea, and all they had to do was start coding. They didn't even need an hour to come up with the idea. You don't necessarily need to be coding. You could be making a presentation. You could be doing one of the no-code tracks. But if you are coding, please just start as soon as possible. Last point I'm going to make is the 5th and final point. Don't miss the deadline. I've seen so many talented teams who submit late because they're just trying to perfect that one thing. In reality, they probably could have even won the whole hackathon, but because they were perfectionists and they wanted to get every single thing absolutely right, they submitted late or didn't even submit at all. There are teams at every hackathon who submit at 12:01, 12:05, sometimes even at 12:30 when the deadline was at 12. Look, we're not trying to be super harsh for the sake of being harsh. It just makes it really, really difficult for us to judge if people are submitting at different times. Plus, taking that extra 5 minutes to submit at 12:05 is probably not going to make the difference between winning and losing. Part of the point that I'm trying to make is that a hackathon is not about perfection. It's not about creating a perfect product. A hackathon is about hacking something together within the time constraints that you have, the 36 hours or sometimes maybe 48 hours. I like to explain this in terms of 10 steps. Let's say that there are 10 steps towards building a perfect product. At a hackathon, you can maybe do steps 1 and 2, maybe just about step 3, but there's no way you're getting anywhere near step 10. So get that out of your mind. When the time comes for the deadline, even if you've only got the first 1 to 2 steps ready, that's fine. Just submit it, and that's all that you need to do at a hackathon. For those of you who've made it to the end, congratulations. You're ahead of 99% of people who won't have watched this far. I've honestly seen people take these 5 tips and apply them to go from knowing nothing and raising millions of dollars for their first startup. It really is that simple. So if you want to come and apply these principles at our next hackathon, sign up by the link in the description and I'll see you there.